Welcome to the Contractor Counsel Podcast.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Contractor Counsel Podcast with Joshua Irvine. Joshua is a business and tax attorney based in Utah who works with construction and trade companies as outside general counsel, helping them get paid, stay compliant, and build stronger businesses. I'm Sean O'Connor, and today Joshua and I are talking about where contractors actually lose money on change orders, why it happens, and what you need to have in place to fix it. Hi, Joshua. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks so much for having me.
We've all heard of, change orders, and I know they can be the bane of many a contractor's existence. Where do they typically, contractors that is, where do they typically lose money on change orders?
Sure. I think, and just for those that might not be as familiar with change orders, let me just start by saying change orders are just simply changes to the original terms or agreement about the kind of work that was going to be done. And knowing that, I think is helpful because a lot of people can probably start filling in the gaps for where do those things create problems. At least with a number of my clients, a number of the issues that come up is just simply that so many of these changes are done verbally, they're done in person, they're done on the phones while driving to and from jobs.
On the fly.
Yeah, they're just not documented, right? And that's probably, if I was to summarize it all into one point, it's the failure to document the changes that actually come back to bite people.
Yeah, it's funny. You're on a frenetic job site and the owner comes through and eyeballs something and, says jump and someone's supposed to say how high and get it done sometimes. And so when by the nature of the definition, change order happens in the middle of a project, right? And is there something else that breaks down that causes it to never get properly tracked or billed? Because like you said, the bottom line is a lot of this stuff just doesn't get written down. Are there other factors involved?
Well, the other side is some of it starts in the beginning, where a lot of times when bids are put together for customers, for homeowners, for even on the commercial side, a lot of times the estimates don't really get into a lot of detail of the specific materials being used. And so there's always a disconnect where a homeowner is expecting this perfect magazine level finish product, high-end material. And the bid almost always is estimating a middle of the road product finish. And so that often creates a change order, just understanding what the client's going to choose. And so from the very beginning, we have already introduced that need for a change. And so one hand is documenting what these changes are. And the second is documenting that the client understood and accepted that these changes and these instructions would incur additional costs. And so there's not usually a dispute like, yes, I wanted that beautiful, granite countertop. But I didn't realize it was going to cost me $5,000 more.
Right. I didn't want it $5,000 more bad. I wanted, interesting you said up front, right? Like, okay, I'm a contractor. I'm doing a bid for your kitchen remodel, Joshua. And, putting together bids is in and of itself kind of a job. And I want to get it done. I want to get the project. And I'm going to middle of the road some of these line items, I guess, right? In terms of finishes or, tile or granite or, pine or mahogany, what needs to be in that initial bid? Like, what's the clause? What's the language that, hey, this is pine. If, this is plywood. If you want mahogany, that's going to cost more. Like, how do you deal with that?
Well, I mean, we've talked about contracts before. I think it can definitely be in the contract language that the attached estimate is assuming a middle of the road product. And if the client chooses higher or lower grade products, that'll adjust the pricing. But separate from just being in the fine print is just really the contractor discussing that. I think a lot of the disputes that occur, if we were to reverse engineer all of them, it comes back to a difficulty around communicating, and whether that's the cost, the timing, the products, who's going to do the job, when they're going to show up on the job. Change orders are the example we're discussing today, but it all comes down to failure to communicate, in my opinion.
It could all be written down, right? I mean, given that I spend a lot of time speaking with attorneys about all sorts of contracts and language, you can put it in the contract, but ultimately too, there's people involved and you have to talk to them, right? Like, hey, heads up, this is a thing. Is there something that, really has to be built into a contract or a process from the start so that, changes don't turn into a dispute later? In addition to, hey, best practice would be face-to-face communication with your client.
I mean, obviously, you could have certain things in there about, just kind of disclaimer language that if there are materials or products outside of scope, you'll be billed separately for those things. Just that kind of language is super helpful. And a lot of times contractors, they're really actually just trying to be nice and helpful to their customers and their clients. And that's what really gets a lot of them in trouble, where, I know it wasn't really in scope, but I'm helping you out, so I'll just finish this because we're already there today doing something else. And then they don't maybe pay attention to it, or it doesn't get done the right way, and all of a sudden that becomes the complaint. And then the contractor is left with, that was never in there anyway, so now I'm going to charge you for it since you're having a fight about it. It goes back and forth.
Yeah, I was doing you a favor, and then and back again, the human element, right? It's like, that is interesting. We talked, a lot of change orders, right? They get approved on the fly, right? Quick text, quick convo. Does a contractor think they're covered, if you will, if a dispute comes up at the end, when it comes to getting paid because they had this verbal exchange? Would that stand up, so to speak, in court?
It's hard to stand up in court. Not necessarily, because there's two parts. It's not going to be hard to stand up that the work was done. What's going to be hard is, what did the customer agree to pay for the work that was done? And so, you should be able to get your receipts for the materials and things that you did for that work. But trying to claim your hourly labor rate or however you charge, is going to be difficult when both sides don't agree in a very explicit way. Some states, not all states, but some states allow you to record conversations. You could try to use some of that. I mean, but we really have a lot of tools, I think, available to contractors as business owners to do things that would document this a lot better along the way. Could be through various apps that they, kind of like a project management tool or portal. It
Right.
could be through electronic signature tools like DocuSign or any of those variations. It could be a text message, although that is subject to interpretation, and we've all sent bad text messages over the years.
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
I-
Yeah, the nature of the
yeah,
text is,
but
it's kind of
what does
quick,
that
right? So, I
mean?
mean, I guess if
And
it's very
yeah,
thorough,
yeah. My
I'm sure
favorite
that,
is when a customer sends kind of a question to a homeowner or a client and says, "Hey, here's the flooring, or here's the tile that we want to put in. What do you think?" And they get the infamous thumbs up response. And I've seen this literally in court. What the heck does a thumbs up mean? Like, does it mean yes? Does it mean I want you to do more than that? Does it mean I'm just acknowledging this so that you don't think I ghosted you? Like, what does it mean?
oh my God, that's so good. Yeah. Uh, I mean, you mentioned, apps and things like that. I could see, I'm sure this must exist, right? Like, I'm on the job working and I can log in to my tablet or my laptop, my phone, and be like, okay, we're changing, from granite tile to something fancier, and that goes in, changes. I'm assuming I could, and then my client or whoever is going to get a message that says, acknowledge this change, right? That I'm sure that, excuse me, I'm sure that tech exists, right?
There are tons of those tools out there.
Yeah.
And I would say the reason that a lot of customers don't, or a lot of like construction companies and trades don't use it is either number one, they're not they're not studying technology, they're not learning about business, they're not being up to date on these tools. Or even if they are familiar, they feel like the price point of some of those tools exceeds their ability as a business at this point, which could very well be true,
Sure.
but you have to analyze what you're giving up in exchange for that cost.
Yeah, like you said, I mean, even if things don't come to a dispute, I mean, this conversation is in part about the fact that you did some extra work and you didn't get paid for it. And that, by definition, is, money losing. And if you want to capture that revenue so that you can grow your business. Walk us through, Joshua, and it doesn't have to be a tech example by any means, but a situation where, a client of yours, the change orders were handled the right way, and it directly impacted whether or not that contractor got paid. Do you have just an example that you could share anecdotally?
Sure. I had a conversation earlier today with a client about something that's, very relevant to this kind of situation. And so they were brought on the job. It was a relatively small remodel job of a bathroom, which is a very common thing that a residential contractor might do. And initially when they were brought in, it was just kind of the shower tub dynamic that a lot of us do from time to time. But while they were in there, they made some observations about some other areas that could also be improved that was not within the typical bathroom shower, tub, remodel. But it was some paint and some vanity and some electrical on some other aspects in that vicinity. And they discussed it with the client and they said, hey, I don't know what your plans are. Here's some ideas. Since we're already in this area working, it might be cheaper for us to bring in somebody to help with some of these other tasks at the same time if you want. And if so, here's what it would cost. And here are some of your choices. And they ultimately didn't want to at that point just because of budget. But had they wanted to, it would have been really easy to just simply send over okay, here's the revised scope or here's the additional scope and pricing. And then they sign off on it. That's really all it had to be.
And the flip side of that, obviously, is sometimes someone will, it's like, of course, they're going to want this thing fixed. While I'm in here, I'm going to fix it for them. And then you try to get paid for it. And they're like, hey, I didn't have any extra budget for this. And thanks for fixing that, but I'm not paying you for it. I guess,
It happens.
Yeah, I'll bet. So, if a contractor knows that, their current change order process is loose, and they may not even have a process. I mean, this, you know what I mean? Like, I love this, someone's out there listening right now and they're like, process, my God, I'm so far away from a process. But, what specifically would you tell them to focus on? What should they fix to protect themselves? And just assuming they don't have all the money in the world, they're not going to buy a whole bunch of new software. What's your advice in this context?
Yeah, bare minimum is that they need to make sure that both sides, the client and the contractor, confirm in some kind of a written way what is the new scope or what's the expanded scope and what amount is going to be paid for it. Those are like the two most things that get disputed. What's the scope and what's the payment for it? Now, I realize best practice would be some kind of a signed contract or amendment, but even if you're not at the point where you're willing to put the time into those systems and processes, there has to be an email, a text message that clearly confirms both sides are okay with that change.
I'm the contractor again in this scenario. Dear Joshua, quick email here. Just to confirm our conversation from this morning, I'm going to replace the heater vents in the bathroom has an additional scope of work, and it's going to cost between $800 and $900. Just respond that you agree. Literally, that would probably be enough, right?
Yeah, and you need to have that yes response back.
Right. Not a thumbs up back, right?
Not a thumbs up.
Use your words and say, yes, I approve this this message, this change. Yeah. Interesting. I mean, it does come down, I mean, you know, I have another question about this though, because so much, you're at a certain place in your business as a contractor where, you're not doing all the work yourself. You're not on, you've got several remodels going on in the neighborhood. You're a bathroom specialist, and now you've got a crew. They may not be employees, but they're, you got somebody who you trust who's kind of the foreman on the job, or they're your eyes and ears on a project. What's now, and those people are often likely to have some contact with the end client, right? So what's your advice for helping, a contractor, the ultimate, or manage that? Because it's the foreman, if you will, on the job has no exposure typically to this stuff. No liability probably.
Yeah, well, number one, this kind of gets into running a business and not just simply having a job. But I mean, you have to train your team to do these same things. And your training, and I've seen this happen with a number of my clients, your training might include financially incentivizing them to do it the right way. Hey, we're going to give you a bonus if there aren't any disputes about change order or scope of work. Or, hey, we'll give you a bonus if you are able to increase the scope of work, because it means you get to do more work and we also get to make more money as a company. So I'm more, find the carrot that's going to incentivize someone to do it the right way than just simply threaten them if they don't. But
Yeah, no, listen, I love that because, if this is my business, and let's say now you work for me, you're an accomplished contractor, refinish, remodel guy. And I say, hey, man, when you're on a project, I want your eyes wide open. I want you looking for other opportunities that are within our expertise, or maybe aren't, but would be in the best interest of our client. And so that we can then present that, because even if they decline to have the work done, that makes us look really good. Like we're helping. So that's an incentive. And then obviously, as an employee, you're like, oh, I did a great job and I get to do extra work and I get to be paid more. And then, like you said, maybe there is a spiff on the other side too for upselling, if you will, in a good way. Huh. Any final advice? I mean, this isn't your last podcast, but just for this, on this topic, anything you want to send out there to our listeners? They're like, hey, couple final thoughts. Anything in particular that we haven't covered?
Well, the reality is a lot of my clients, one of their biggest complaints is, how do I make more money? And the reality is that you bill for all the work you do, and you do a lot of work. And I've seen on average that change orders can account for pretty quickly 10 to 15% of gross revenue of a company over a year. If you're not capturing all of that potential revenue through some of these processes, then you're really just letting it walk out the door. And so you want to increase revenue, spend some time, create some of these procedures and systems so that you can actually document and bill for your change orders, because you're doing the work. You're incurring the expenses, you're paying the labor. Why don't you just bill your clients the right way?
Yeah, and for the most part, they get it. As long as the communication is clear, it's not something they're gonna. I mean, there's always difficult clients that have to get fired, but generally speaking, right? Well, listen, man, great to talk to you. We're out of time for today, but I know we'll talk again in the future. Enjoy your day.
Thanks so much. You too.
Hey, thanks for listening to the Contractor Counsel Podcast with Joshua Irvine. If you're a contractor or business owner and want to make sure your contracts, your systems, your financial processes are set up to protect your work and grow your bottom line, you can learn more that's the website, irvine-legal.com. Don't forget to subscribe to the program, maybe leave a review, and share this episode with someone in your world who you think would benefit from this kind of information. I'm Sean O'Connor. Have a great day.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and leave us a review in the comments.